Chapter 12. Developing your topic and doing your research. First, we'll begin to explain the action to gather and evaluate material to use in this speech. Locate and evaluate information sources. It's divided in 3 different topics, which are personal knowledge, experience, and observation, secondary research, and primary research. Personal knowledge, experience, and observation basically means how you're likely to have material examples or personal experiences to talk in the speech. The secondary research is the process of locating information about the topic, but this one is researched by someone else. It could be discovered in books, articles, journals, newspapers, etc. And the primary research, this information is gathered by yourself, and it could be acquired by different sources. For example, surveying, interviewing, experimenting, examining artifacts or original documents. The next one is evaluating sources, which basically are authority, objectivity, and currency. The authority is how the author is prepared about this topic. The objectivity is how objective is the author about the topic, and the currency is if it's newer or if it's old news or more accurate. Then we'll move on to identify and select relevant information. This is about factual statements. These ones can be verified or statistics, numbers, examples, etc. The next one is expert opinions. Basically, it's interpretation and judgments an author can make about a specific subject. And the elaboration, it's anecdotes and narratives, comparisons and contrasts, and quotations. This one is about the author being able to tell a story, an amusing story, or a personal experience, also tales. And the last one is record information, and this one is about how the audience can record different information, and it's about preparing note cards or citing sources in the speech. Sorry, I said audience, it's about the speaker. During the speech, he can have prepared the note cards, or he can have a citing source during the speech. Okay, then chapter 13 is organizing your speech. We'll begin with developing the body of the speech, determining the main points, which are statements to complete the central ideas of the speech. Then writing a thesis statement. This is the topic that we will talk about during the speech, the specific goals or the main goals that will be covered during the speech. Outlining the body of the speech. It's the representation of the hierarchical relationship between the whole idea during the speech. And does the main point statement specify how it is related to the goal? This question could be used to verify if the speech is in order and if it's organized. Then we'll move on to creating the introduction, goals of the introduction. In this, we have 5 different goals. It's getting the attention, of course, of the audience, stating the thesis, which we explained previously, establishing your credibility, setting a tone, and creating a bond of goodwill with the audience so they can know what with what you're talking about, the topic. Then the methods of the attention gaining, it's the starting statement. You can begin with a shocking statement, something that will gather the attention of the audience. And then the rhetorical question, which we don't seek a verbal response, but a mental one. The personal reference, the experiences, examples, the quotating, stories, and suspense to keep it interesting. Then preparing the conclusion. It's a summary of the main points, the main idea, or the thesis statement, and then leaving vivid impressions like story, again, personal experiences, making appealing to action. Then the most important one, in my opinion, the listing sources. It can be found in books, newspapers, academic journals, interviews, observations, electronic sites, web pages. These can vary very much. Now, chapter 14, adapting verbally and visually. We'll begin with the information comprehension. This is divided in 6 different points. First one, orient the audience is orient them with the basic ideas you have in the speech, then define the keywords of the speech, some keywords important for them to understand the topic of the speech, illustrate them with new concepts and vivid examples so they can picture them in their mind and understand better. Personalized information, something that is familiar with the audience. For that, you have to make a research of the audience, a brief research, maybe a survey of the audience you will be having. Then compare known ideas with familiar ones. This could be an analogy. You can use an analogy between the unknown and the ideas that the audience already knows. And the last one, use multiple methods for developing the criteria. Then the common ground. This one is basically the background, the knowledge, the attitudes that the audience has and the speakers towards the audience, the philosophies that the speaker may talk about, etc. This is divided in 3 different phases. The first one is, well, it's more like tips. Use personal pronouns we, us, our, so they can feel included in the topic. And then ask rhetorical questions. Again, this means they will not be answered verbally, but this can help the audience to think and get into the topic. And then draw common experience, presenting personal experience examples so they can really know what you're talking about, like in a vivid example. Then speaker credibility is the confidence an audience places in the speaker, how they think the speaker is doing, if it's trusted, etc. It's demonstrate knowledge and expertise. How will you as a speaker convince the audience about the topic, about speaking the truth? And then establish trustworthiness, of course. The audience can believe that what you're saying either it's a lie or it's a truth. So you have to be really accurate in the topic. And then display personableness. So this means the project, you have to agree with the project personality. So basically you have to be congruent with all that you're talking about. Then the initial audience attitudes is a predisposition of the topic, if it's like the opinion if you're against or in favor of the topic that it's being presented. Then the language and cultural differences. It's to overcome linguistic problems, maybe any pronunciation or different words like acronyms, synonyms, that type of words. And then choose culturally sensitive material. Be careful because it can be either in China that you're talking about, or in India, or in Mexico, and this can vary very much the meaning of the words. Then the types of visual aids. There are different examples. For example, objects, models, photographs, slides, maps, charts, graphs. This helps very much the audience to understand what you're talking about. Mainly the maps and the charts and the graphs, to maybe talk about the statistics. So these will be also very helpful for the trustworthiness towards the audience. Moving on to the methods for displaying visual aids. There are different examples. For example, computer meditated presentations like PowerPoints, overhead transparencies, flip charts, poster boards, chalkboards. So you can easily erase and redo, or maybe skip from one topic to another topic and then come back so they can know the connection that you're doing between you as a speaker. You're doing between the 2 topics. Then the criteria for choosing visual aids. These are a few questions that have to be considered. For example, what are the most important ideas that the audience needs to understand and remember in the topic? How many visual aids are appropriate, because you cannot have the whole auditorium filled with posters or chalkboards, or because you would just saturate the audience. And then the necessary equipment, it's readily available. Sometimes we may have technological problems, and that might be an issue for the audience to pay attention. Is the time involved in making the visual aid cost effective? Because maybe it's a lot of money and the audience may not really need it. Are these ideas difficult to explain? Maybe you don't have to have a chalkboard or a graph or a map to explain this topic. Principles for designing effective visual aids. Those are eight points, so there are a lot of them. The first one, use a print size that can be seen easily in the audience, for the audience, because you can be in an auditorium really big, so it would be totally inappropriate to have a poster with Arial 12 size, so it won't work for them. Use a typeface that's easy to read, for example, Times New Roman, Century Gothic. I don't know. Use upper and lowercase type so they can know the difference between the sentences, the paragraphs. Limit the lines of the type to 6 or less sentences. Include only items of information that will emphasize the speech, just main topics, just main goals, thesis statement. Make sure the information is laid out in a way that it's aesthetically pleasing, so it has to be organized like in a beautiful way. Add pictures or clip art if it's appropriate. Maybe it's better to add pictures than words or sentences for them to picture out the topic and picture out the goal. And of course, use the color strategically. You can't use red in an auditorium or yellow, like lemon yellow, I don't know. You have to be really careful. For example, black, a dark purple will work also. Moving on to chapter 16, informative speaking. So we'll begin with the characteristics of effective information speaking. The first one is intellectually stimulating. It has to be new to the audience so they can be really interested in the topic, and it has to be explained in a way that they have curiosity and interest. You have to be creative, so you have to be original with the ideas and also have insights of the topic. Divergent thinking, you have to be very diversified with ideas, and also have different perspectives towards the topic. And then use emphasize to aid memory, like visual aids, repetition, transitions, humor, verbal memory aids. For example, there are two keywords in this point. It's mnemonics, that it's improving memory by using formulas, and acronyms, words formed from the first letter of a word series. Then methods of informing, which are description, definition, comparison, construct, narration, and description. Description is the informative method. It's to create an accurate verbal picture of an image. Definition explains something by identifying its meaning. In this, you can find synonym and acronyms. Synonyms, words that are similar. Acronyms, words that are totally the opposite. Comparison and contrast, you focus on similarities and differences. Narrations, it's recounting events. The author will recount events about the topic with the personal experiences, examples, etc. Demonstration, it's how something's done by displaying the process or how it's done. Then common types of informative speeches, there are two: process speeches and expository speeches. The process speeches, it's how something shows how something's done, or the process, or how it works. And then the expository speeches provides carefully researched knowledge about a complex topic. So there are 4 different expositions speeches, for example, political, economic, social, or religious issues. Then historical events and forces. The third one, theory, principle, or laws. And the last one, the creative work. So these ones are the 4 expository speeches. This means the 4 different perspectives that expository speech may have, and the speaker has to be very careful because in the 4 of them you have to keep them interested and with the curiosity going on in order for them to keep focusing.